My name is Clara. I'm 28 years old and I work at a small interior design firm in Portland. My job is busy, but I love it. It's one of the few things in my life I get to choose for myself, a sanctuary where my creativity breathes free. The rest? Well, I barely have a voice in my own family. I have an older sister named Vanessa, 3 years older than me. She's married to Mark, a workaholic lawyer, and has 3 sons, triplets, all 7 years old. Babysit when I'm free, babysit when I'm tired, and even when I'm trying to enjoy myself, I somehow end up back on aunt duty. It's like my existence is a footnote in their story, only noticed when they need something. 2 years ago, we had a family vacation at the Maine coast, a trip I had really looked forward to. I'd spent months dreaming of salty air and quiet moments sketching by the sea, a rare escape from my relentless schedule. I had requested time off work early, excited to take walks on the beach, check out seaside coffee shops, an exclusive visit an art exhibit I had missed for years, an exclusive showcase of coastal watercolorists I'd followed since college. My mom, Ellen, promised it would be different this time. She said she'd book the hotel for the whole family and that this time I'd actually get to relax. "Clara, you deserve a break," she'd said over the phone, her voice warm with rare affection. I clung to that promise like a lifeline. Sounds great, right? But when we got there, the illusion shattered. The hotel was a charming seaside inn, all weathered wood and nautical charm, but the room assignments were a slap in the face. I found out I'd be sharing a cramped room with the 3 boys, while Vanessa and Mark had their own suite with an ocean view balcony and a king-sized bed. I stood in the lobby, my suitcase heavy in my hand, as the truth sank. I barely had time to react before my mom handed me the key and smiled, her eyes avoiding mine. "The boys love you, Clara. They won't be any trouble." "No trouble," she said, as if love could erase exhaustion. That first night, one cried over a missing teddy bear, his wails piercing the thin walls. Another ran circles looking for the TV remote, knocking over a lamp in his frenzy. The third asked me 5 times if he could have snacks at midnight, his voice a relentless whine. I was exhausted and barely slept, my dreams drowned out by their chaos. I lay awake in a pitch-dark room, listening to heavy breathing and little snores, wishing I could vanish. The room smelled of sunscreen and spilled juice, a suffocating reminder of my role. The next morning, I tried to carve out just 1 hour to visit the exhibit, the one thing I truly wanted to do on this trip. I'd even brought my sketchbook, hoping to capture the exhibit's inspiration. But as I finished getting dressed, Vanessa texted me, her tone casual but commanding. "Where are you going? Mark is about to head out. Can you watch the kids for a bit?" That bit turned into nearly 4 hours. I stood in the hotel room, surrounded by sticky fingers and endless questions, my sketchbook untouched. "Aunt Clara, why is the sky blue? Aunt Clara, can we go swimming?" Their voices overlapped, a cacophony that drowned my thoughts. When I spoke to my mom about it, her face softened with that familiar guilt-trip smile. "You're staying for free, sweetie. It's only fair you help out a little." Her words stung like salt in a wound. I wanted to scream, "Free? I wasn't mooching off anyone. I have a job. I'm independent. I paid for my own trade ticket and I took PTO just to be here." But every time I tried to push back, I was met with disapproving stares, as if my needs were a betrayal. I felt like a stranger in my own family, a ghost summoned only to serve. That entire trip, I only made it to the beach once, a fleeting 20 minutes stolen between diaper changes and tantrums. The waves mocked me with their freedom while I was tethered to duty. Meanwhile, Vanessa posted daily photos from spas, cafes, even a foot massage place, her captions dripping with "I blessed" and antsy family time. And me, I spent most of my time cleaning up cookie crumbs, changing the kids' clothes, and answering an endless stream of "Aunt Clara, can I?" I didn't say much back then. I just packed my things in silence, and when the trip ended, I promised myself there would be no second time. But I was wrong. This year, another family trip is coming, and my parents are already planning like everything will go the same as before. No one asked me anything, as if my consent was assumed, my role pre-written. They just sent the itinerary and a message in our family group chat. "Summer trip to Cape Cod, we're all going together just like every year." The words glared at me from my phone, a silent command to fall in line. I looked at the message, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and resolve. Do they really think I'd step right back into that babysitter aunt role? As if 2 years of resentment hadn't built a wall between us. I started typing a response, my fingers shaking but determined. This time, I wasn't staying quiet. As I stared at a follow-up message from my mom, "This year's trip will be so much fun, Clara. You're riding with us again, right?" I've booked 2 rooms, one for the kids, one for us. The assumption in her words ignited a fire in me. I took a deep breath and replied, "Thanks, Mom. But this year I'll be driving myself. I've already booked my own room at a boutique inn nearby." Less than 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mom, her voice a mix of confusion and irritation. "Clara, what are you saying? Why book your own room? I've already arranged everything. You're breaking tradition." "Mom, I want my own space," I said, keeping my tone steady despite the knot in my chest. 2 years ago, I barely had a minute to myself. I need a real vacation, not another week of playing nanny. There was a beat of silence, then her voice dropped, tinged with disappointment. "But that means you're separating from the family. Vanessa will have to handle the kids on her own. And who will help when she needs a break? You know how hard it is for her." "I'm not the nanny, Mom," I said calmly but firmly, my voice cutting through her guilt. "I work. I earn my own money. I'm an adult, and this time I'm not repeating that mistake." "Clara, don't be selfish," she snapped, her tone sharpening. "Family means helping each other. You don't have kids. You can't understand what Vanessa's going through." That word, selfish, hit like a slap. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to yell. "Selfish? Mom, I gave up my entire vacation last time. I deserve to enjoy this one. Vanessa chose her life." That night, Vanessa sent me a long, emotional text, each word dripping with manipulation. "Clara, I'm drowning here. 3 kids, a husband who's always working, and now you're abandoning me? I'm exhausted, and I thought you'd be there for me. You're single, no kids, helping out is the least you could do." She reminded me that I'm still single with no kids, so helping out is the least I could do. But when I read the part where she wrote, "I just wanted us all to have a fun family vacation, and now you're acting like you've been deeply wronged," I put my phone down and felt something inside me snap. "Deeply wronged?" I muttered to myself, pacing my apartment. "You have no idea, Vanessa." The audacity of her words burned, as if my years of silent sacrifice were nothing but a tantrum. A few days later, Dad called. He wasn't angry, just concerned, his voice softer than Mom's, but heavy with expectation. "Are you really planning to go separately, Clara?" "Yes, Dad. I booked a nearby hotel, but a private room. I'll join the group activities, but the rest I want to decide for myself," I said, bracing for his response. "Vanessa's really upset, you know," he said, his tone almost pleading. "She's counting on you. Those boys are a handful and Mark's always on calls. Can't you just pitch in a little?" I used to be upset too, Dad. Really upset. But no one seemed to notice. I spent the last trip wiping noses and breaking up fights while Vanessa got massages. I'm done being her safety net. I thought he might try to convince me, but he just sighed, a weary sound that carried years of unspoken tension. "I get it, Clara. I just wish things were different." "So do I said, my voice quieter but firm. "But I can't keep making them different by giving up my own life." 2 days later, Vanessa sent a message in the group chat, impossible to misread, her words laced with venom. "Have your personal vacation, Clara, but don't expect the family to be happy if you skip everything just because you want freedom. You don't get to do that." The message felt like a public shaming, a dare to fall back in line. "Freedom?" I whispered to myself, my anger flaring. "You think this is about freedom? It's about survival." I didn't reply, but I added an extra layer of privacy protection to my hotel booking, ensuring no one could accidentally drop by. I mapped out my entire schedule, a coastal craft workshop where I'd learn to weave seagrass baskets, a sunrise hike to sketch the cliffs, and an afternoon at my favorite gallery showcasing rare impressionist seascapes. This trip wasn't going to be about babysitting or swallowing my frustration. I had spent my entire 20s trying to please others, keeping things smooth, while my own needs were constantly pushed aside. This time, I was going to be heard. The night before departure, Mom sent a final message, her tone softer but still manipulative. "We'll wait for you at the rest stop as planned. Even if you're not riding with us, I hope you'll still come." I read it in silence, my resolve hardening. I don't hate them. I just refuse to keep playing the role that's been draining me for years. At dawn, I left early, the Portland skyline fading in my rearview mirror. The air was cool and fresh, scented with pine and possibility. My suitcase sat neatly in the back seat, my sketchbook tucked beside it. My favorite playlist played softly, a mix of indie folk that felt like a hug. I smiled, a real smile, not the forced one I'd worn for years. For the first time, I was heading somewhere for me, not for anyone else. And this vacation, no matter what happens, I won't let anyone push me back into a supporting role. This is my trip, and I'll live every moment of it. As I drove, my phone pinged with a new message from Vanessa. "Clara, you're really doing this? Mom's worried you're pulling away from us. Can we talk before you get here?" I glanced at it, my grip tightening on the wheel. "Talk," I muttered. "You mean lecture?" I didn't respond, letting the music drown out her attempt to reel me back in. I had just checked into the hotel, a cozy inn with ivy-covered walls and a view of the Cape Cod dunes, when my phone rang. I didn't need to look to know who it was. I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and answered. "Where are you?" Vanessa's voice cut through the speaker, cold as steel with an edge of panic. "I just checked in," I said, trying to stay calm, though my heart raced. "Private room?" She laughed, a sharp, joyless sound that grated my nerves. "Clara, are you seriously doing this? Turning our family vacation into your own personal getaway? You know how much I need you right now." "No, I'm still joining the group stuff," I said slowly, my voice steady despite her rising pitch. "But I also have the right to rest in my own way." "I can't believe this," Vanessa snapped, her voice breaking into a shrill accusation. "I'm juggling 3 kids. Mark is constantly on work calls, and Mom and Dad aren't getting any younger. Who do you think's going to help me if you just disappear like this? You're acting like I'm some villain for needing a break." I closed my eyes, steadying myself against the wave of guilt she was trying to drown me in. "Vanessa, I'm not disappearing. I'm just not going to be an unpaid helper like 2 years ago. I'm not 19 anymore." "But you're still single. No kids, no real responsibilities except yourself." Her voice took on a sharp, accusing tone, each word a dagger aimed at my choices. "You have so much free time, Clara. And me? I just need a little help, just a little. Is that really too much? You're making me feel like a failure as a mother." I gripped the phone tighter, my patience fraying. "I'm not your backup plan for burnout. I have a job, a life. I need rest too, Vanessa. And stop using your kids as an excuse to guilt me. You're not failing them. You're failing to respect me." There was a pause on the other end, a heavy silence that felt like a standoff. Then Vanessa started crying, her sobs loud and theatrical. "I'm exhausted, Clara. I haven't had a single night of decent sleep. You're free, relaxed, and I'm stuck in this endless cycle of fatigue, and you can't sacrifice even a little to help me. You're my sister. How can you be so cold?" My heart sank, but I didn't back down. "You chose motherhood. I respect that. But you can't expect me to sacrifice my life just because you're unhappy with the one you chose. If you're so overwhelmed, hire a nanny or talk to Mark. Don't dump it on me." "Oh, it's all about you now," she spat, her tears turning to venom. "You're choosing yourself over your own family. You'll regret this when you're alone with no one to lean on." "No. It's about knowing my limits," I said clearly, my voice cutting through her manipulation. "And I've learned that if I don't protect them, no one else will." The call ended in silence, her sobs abruptly cut off as she hung up. I set the phone down, my heart still racing with emotion. I knew Vanessa would tell Mom, and I knew the storm wasn't over yet. Sure enough, an hour later, Mom called. She wasn't yelling, but her voice was full of disappointment, each word carefully chosen to tug at my guilt. "Clara, what are you doing? Vanessa is really hurt. She's crying her eyes out. Couldn't you be a little more flexible? You know how much she relies on you." "Mom," I said slowly, my voice trembling but resolute. 2 years ago, I was as flexible as I could be. I gave up my time, my energy, my freedom. I didn't even sleep properly. And through it all, you never once asked if I was okay. You only asked if I could help Vanessa. Do you even remember me begging for 1 hour to see that exhibit, only to be told I was being selfish? She was silent, and I could almost hear her grappling for a response. "Clara, you've changed," she finally said, her tone a mix of sadness and accusation. "I've grown up, Mom," I corrected, my voice steady now. "I love this family, but I'm tired of being the one everyone overlooks. If you only see me as a temporary fix for other people's problems, then I don't want that vacation. I'm not here to be Vanessa's crutch or your peacekeeper anymore." "You're tearing us apart," she said softly, her voice cracking. "Is that what you want?" "Oh, Mom," I said, my throat tight. "I want to be part of this family, not its servant. If you can't see that, then maybe you're the ones tearing us apart." I didn't know if they truly understood or just felt like I was rebelling. But I knew one thing for sure. This was the first time I hadn't backed down under family pressure, and whatever came next, I was no longer the person who said yes just to keep the peace. That night, I took a walk alone along the beach, the sand cool beneath my feet. The sunset lit up the sky in gold, a fiery promise of new beginnings. The ocean breeze ran through my hair, and I felt a strange, peaceful clarity. I realized I might be upsetting people, but for the first time, I wasn't betraying myself. As I walked, my phone buzzed with a new group chat message from Vanessa. "Clara's too good for us now, huh? Enjoy your fancy hotel while we struggle. Some sister." The words were a public jab, meant to shame me before the family. I stared at the screen, my anger flaring, but I didn't respond. Instead, I turned off notifications and let the sound of the waves wash away her venom. I had never thought I'd post anything personal online, especially not about my family. But after the call with Mom and Vanessa's passive-aggressive texts, I felt suffocated, like my voice was being smothered under their expectations. I needed to say something, not to vent, but to clear my mind and reclaim my truth. So, I created an anonymous Reddit account, went to a casual life stories subreddit, and wrote. I shared about the vacation 2 years ago, how I had to sleep with 3 kids while my sister got her own room. I described the endless babysitting, the ignored pleas for a break, and how my family assumed I was available just because I wasn't married or a mom. I kept details vague, no names, no locations. At the end, I asked, am I wrong for wanting a real vacation for myself? I posted it late at night, expecting a few sympathetic replies at best. I didn't expect it to blow up, but within hours there were hundreds of comments, and most supported me. Some said I was too patient, enduring far more than they would have. Others said I should have drawn the line long ago, with one commenter writing, "Your family treats you like a doormat because you let them. Stop wiping their messes." Many shared similar stories where self-sacrifice was treated like duty and independence was seen as selfishness. I read every comment, feeling both relieved and sad that so many of us had been pushed into side roles in our own lives. One comment stuck with me. "You're not selfish for wanting a life. You're human. Don't let them steal that from you." I was scrolling through the thread, my heart lighter, when a new message popped up in the family chat, this time from my cousin Lila, who rarely spoke up. "Clara, is this you on Reddit? It's going viral. Sounds exactly like our family." My stomach dropped. The anonymity I'd counted on was unraveling. Then, the thing I never expected happened. Vanessa saw the post. She called me at 7:00 a.m. the next morning, while I was having coffee on my hotel balcony. the sunrise painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. "Did you write that?" she demanded, her voice sharp, trembling with rage. I stayed calm, though my pulse quickened. "You recognized it was me?" "How could I not? You think you're anonymous?" Her voice rose to a near scream. "You described everything in detail, the kids, the hotel, my spa trips. Who wouldn't know it was about me? You made me a joke in front of thousands. Do you know how many people are calling me selfish now?" "I didn't make anyone say anything, Vanessa. They're reacting to what they read. And what I wrote was the truth." I kept my tone even, refusing to let her drag me into her storm. "The truth?" she spat, her voice breaking into a mix of tears and fury. "You destroyed my image, Clara. You humiliated me in front of the entire world. I'm getting messages from friends, coworkers, even strangers, saying I'm a terrible mother and sister. How could you do this to me?" I didn't answer, because what she cared about was image, not truth. For her, it was always about how things looked, never how people felt. "Vanessa, I didn't name you. I didn't even mention Maine. If you're humiliated, maybe it's because you recognize yourself in it." "You're a traitor," she hissed, her words venomous. "You'll pay for this, Clara. You think you can just walk away and ruin me? I'll make sure everyone knows what a selfish, ungrateful sister you are." The call ended with a click, her threat lingering like a dark cloud. 2 hours later, I got a message from Mom. "Did you really do that? You posted about our family online?" I typed back, my fingers steady despite the storm brewing inside. "Yes, Mom. Because if I didn't speak up, no one would have listened." At first, she was angry. She sent a flurry of texts, each one sharper than the last. "You're ungrateful, Clara. You've shamed us all. How could you air our private matters like that?" But then she started reading. Not just the post, but the comments too. The words from strangers, fair, unbiased. By that evening, she called again, her voice softer, almost hesitant. "I didn't think people would see it that way. I thought you were exaggerating about how hard it was for you." "How many times have I exaggerated, Mom?" I asked, my voice quiet but piercing. "I begged you to listen 2 years ago, but no one did until someone else said it." "I need to think about this," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't realize how much we'd hurt you." After that call, I didn't hear from Vanessa again, her silence a stark contrast to her earlier fury. But Dad called, his voice heavy with a rare vulnerability. He kept it brief. "Your mom and I just talked to your sister. We all need to know I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. About everything." I was stunned. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard Dad say sorry, his pride usually an impenetrable wall. "Thanks, Dad," I said, my throat tight. "I just want us to be a family, not a hierarchy." That night, I got a message from someone unexpected. Mark, Vanessa's husband. "I'm sorry for letting you be taken advantage of," he wrote. "I'm talking to Vanessa. I think she needs to change. Can we meet tomorrow? Just you and me?" For the first time in years, I felt like someone in the family actually had my back, not out of obligation, not for the sake of peace, but because they saw the truth. I replied, agreeing to meet, but my heart was cautious. Was this genuine, or another attempt to smooth things over for Vanessa's sake? 2 days after my post went viral, Mom called again with a short, heavy message. "Clara, the vacation's canceled." I froze, not out of shock, but an unexpected wave of emotion. Part of me felt relief, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Another part felt sadness, a pang for the family connection I'd once craved. I had longed for a vacation for myself after so much sacrifice, but instead of getting that freedom, I ended up paying for the truth being exposed too quickly, too loudly. "Since your post, Vanessa hasn't really spoken to anyone," Mom sighed, her voice weary. "Mark got so upset he left to stay with his parents in Augusta. Your dad and we need time to reflect. Clara, I didn't realize how much we'd pushed you aside. We thought we were helping Vanessa, but we were hurting you." That one sentence told me everything had escalated more than I imagined. The family group chat, once buzzing with plans, went silent, a digital graveyard of our fractured bond. That evening, I received a message from Mark. I'd like to meet in person, just you and me, not through Vanessa, not through your parents. We met at a quiet cafe not far from my hotel, its windows framing the dunes beyond. Mark arrived on time, looking tired, but his eyes were clear, free of the awkward avoidance I used to see at family dinners. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up, he said as soon as he sat down. I knew Vanessa had control issues, but I didn't realize she was. I didn't even need to ask. I knew he meant about the money. I don't blame you, I said, my voice steady but guarded. But it's hard to believe you didn't notice. Mark shook his head, his expression pained. She told me she'd given you money, even described it in detail, cash in an envelope left on the kitchen counter for Clara's expenses. Every time I asked, she had a reason. Clara's fine. She doesn't need much. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I checked the bank statements and asked Vanessa directly. She admitted she only gave you money for pizza a couple of times. The rest she kept for family needs. I gave a dry laugh, the betrayal stinging anew. If there was an envelope, it must have been meant for someone else. I love Vanessa, Clara, but I won't let her walk all over you just because you speak up less, Mark said, his voice firm. I'm making her face this. She needs to apologize properly and pay you back everything she owes. I nodded, no longer angry, just deeply disappointed. So, what are you going to do? I asked, locking eyes with him. Push her to get help, he said without hesitation. Therapy, accountability, whatever it takes. And I'm hiring a nanny so you're never put in that position again. I leaned back, processing his words. For the first time, I saw Mark not as Vanessa's enabler, but as someone trying to break the cycle. The next morning, Vanessa showed up at my hotel, unannounced, her eyes red and puffy from crying. Mark stood behind her, arms crossed, his presence a silent enforcer. She was holding an envelope, her hands trembling as she clutched it like a lifeline. I'm sorry, she said, her voice so soft it was barely audible, cracking under the weight of her words. For taking advantage of your kindness, for lying, and for turning a family vacation into a stage to control you. I stayed silent, my gaze steady, letting her words hang in the air. She handed me the envelope, her fingers brushing mine briefly. This is the money I owe you. Every cent. Mark made me recalculate all of it. $2,500. 0 cents for all the times I said I'd pay you back, but didn't. I didn't open it, the weight of the envelope heavy in my hand. I just looked at her and asked, do you think things can ever go back to the way they were? She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. No. Then, after a pause, she added, and I think maybe that's a good thing. I felt the corners of my mouth lift slightly, unsure if it was a smile or something more bittersweet. I need help, Vanessa admitted, her voice raw. Mark asked me to start seeing a therapist. I agreed, but I'm not sure I can fix everything. I've been so caught up in being the perfect mom that I forgot how to be a sister. I responded slowly, choosing my words carefully. You don't have to fix everything in one day, but if you can start by respecting other people, especially the quiet ones, that's already more than enough. Vanessa nodded, and for the first time, she didn't look like the powerful older sister who always had to win. She looked like a woman trying to find herself again after a long chain of mistakes. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you, she whispered. I thought you were just fine, because you never complained. I was never fine, I said, my voice soft but unflinching. I was breaking, and you didn't care enough to notice. Mark stepped forward, his voice gentle but firm. We're working on it, Clara. I promise. And the vacation, though it didn't go as planned, gave me more than any beach party or sunset ever could. It gave me clarity. It gave Vanessa a mirror, and it gave my whole family a chance to change, or at the very least, to begin learning how. 4 weeks after the first vacation was canceled, I got a call from Dad. He didn't say much, just gently offered, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. Clara, Your mom and I would like to take you out to dinner, your favorite restaurant, the Bayside Bistro, this Friday. I hesitated for a second, memories of past disappointments flickering in my mind, then nodded, even though they couldn't see me. Okay, Dad, I'll be there. Maybe after everything, we all needed a dinner with no arguing, no blame, just a fresh start. That evening, when I walked into the restaurant, a cozy spot with nautical decor and a view of Portland's harbor, my mom stood up first and pulled out a chair for me. That had never happened before, and the gesture caught me off guard. Dad smiled, awkward like a small-town teacher who'd just fumbled his lecture. We're sorry, Mom said, even before the appetizers arrived, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, for minimizing your feelings, for giving you burdens that were never yours to carry. I looked at her, and for the first time she seemed smaller. Not in stature, but in the way she spoke from the heart, not from her role as the adult in the family. We thought we were helping Vanessa, but we didn't see how much we were hurting you, she added, her voice trembling. When I read those comments on your post, I felt ashamed. All those people saw what we couldn't. Dad reached across the table, his hand hovering before settling on mine. We're planning another trip, he said, his tone cautious but hopeful. This time you can travel separately, stay separately, and join only the things you want. No one will ask you to babysit. We promise. I asked, my voice steady but searching. What about Vanessa? Mom glanced at Dad, then said, She's in counseling. Mark convinced her. And honestly, she's beginning to realize she needs to change. I didn't respond right away. I thought of all the years I had compromised, shouldered responsibilities that weren't mine. Part of me still feared all these promises would disappear like morning fog, but another part of me wanted to try believing again. All right, I nodded. I'll go, but I'm driving myself, booking my own room, and if anyone tries to put me back in the aunt babysitter role, I leave. No warning. We understand, Dad said. And Mom gave a small, quiet nod, her eyes holding mine with a sincerity I hadn't seen in years. A week later, the family group chat came back to life with a new name, Cape Cod Reset. Everyone tried to keep things light, a cautious attempt at healing. Even Vanessa only sent smiley emojis. No directions or demands like before. I quietly booked a hotel half a mile from the main place, a charming bed and breakfast with a private balcony overlooking the bay. Close enough for dinners, but far enough to have my own space. On the morning of departure, I woke early, made coffee, packed the car, and left Portland before sunrise, the city's lights fading into the dawn. No one called to rush me. No texts from Mom asking, "Are you on your way?" No reminders from Vanessa. For the first time, I felt like a true adult in my own family, my choices respected. When I arrived, I checked in and asked the front desk not to share my room information with anyone except law enforcement in case of emergency. The receptionist, a kind woman with a warm smile, nodded. A lot of guests do that. You're good. I smiled back, a weight lifting from my shoulders. I had learned that setting boundaries isn't defiance. It's self-respect. That afternoon, we met at a seafood restaurant by the beach, the air filled with the scent of grilled lobster and salt. Everyone was there. Mom, Dad, Vanessa, Mark, the boys, and even my cousin Leela, who tipped Vanessa off about the Reddit post. Vanessa showed up with Mark and the boys, and for the first time, she brought a hired nanny, a young woman named Sophie, cheerful, energetic, and clearly professional. Thank you for coming, Vanessa said, her voice tentative, no strings attached. I nodded, studying her face for signs of the old manipulation, but found none. Maybe, just maybe, something really had changed. Throughout the evening, no one mentioned 2 years ago. No one asked me to take the kids to the bathroom or help feed them. I sat next to Dad and told him about a design project I was doing for a boutique hotel, sketching ideas for a coastal lobby. He listened attentively, his eyes bright with interest, like what I said finally mattered as much as anything Vanessa had ever said. That sounds incredible, Clara, he said, his voice warm. You've got a real gift. When dinner ended, I quietly returned to my hotel, the stars glittering above the dunes. No one followed me. No one held me back. And when I opened my room door, the silence was a gift, wrapping me in true peace. On day 2 of the trip, I woke up in my quiet hotel room, soft sunlight filtering through the curtains. I made coffee, turned on some light music, and sat on the balcony with a book I'd just bought, a collection of essays on coastal art. For the first time in years, my vacation didn't begin with someone yelling my name down a hallway or kids pounding on my door. Everything was still, a canvas of calm I could paint with my own desires. After the hotel's breakfast buffet, I got a text from Mom. "We're heading to the seaside park this afternoon. Want to join?" I replied simply, "I'll come by later if I finish up on my end." No promises, no pressure. Most importantly, no guilt. Around 11:00 a.m., I visited a local art gallery I'd wanted to see since 2 years ago, its walls lined with vibrant seascapes that seemed to pulse with life. I wandered through the paintings, studying each brushstroke, my sketchbook open as I jotted down ideas for a new project. For the first time, I felt this vacation truly belonged to me, a space where I was Clara, not just Aunt. Just as I was leaving the gallery, planning to grab coffee by the beach, my phone buzzed. It was Sophie, the nanny Vanessa had hired. "Clara, I'm sorry to call, but Vanessa asked me to see if you could watch the boys for about 20 minutes. She said, it's urgent." I didn't answer right away, a chill running down my spine as old wounds reopened. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the familiar pull of duty. "Sophie, I think you're great," I said slowly, my voice firm but kind. "But I'm not the babysitter. If Vanessa has something urgent, she should have planned ahead or made other arrangements." "Yes, I understand. I'm just doing what she told me to," Sophie said, her tone apologetic. "It's okay. You're doing your job. Thanks for calling." I hung up, my heart pounding, then immediately texted Mark. "Your sister's trying to pass the kids off to me again, this time through Sophie." I added a screenshot of the call log for proof, my fingers trembling with a mix of anger and resolve. 3 minutes later, Mark called, his voice thick with frustration. "Clara, thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry. She promised she wouldn't do this. I'll take care of it right now." "She needs to stop testing me," I said, my voice sharp. "I'm not falling back into that role, Mark. Not now, not ever." "No," he said, his tone earnest. "I'm handling it. She's not getting a pass on this." That afternoon, when I showed up a little late to the seaside park, the energy had shifted. Vanessa didn't look at me, her face tight with embarrassment, and Mark was off playing soccer with the boys, his posture tense. Mom came over, holding a lemonade, and said quietly, "We heard about what happened earlier. I'm sorry, Clara. Vanessa should have known better. I spoke to her, and so did Mark." I simply nodded, my gaze fixed on the horizon. I wasn't here to keep arguing. I was here to live true to myself. "Thanks, Mom," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "I just want to enjoy this trip as me, not as anyone's helper." While the family rested under the shade of the trees, Vanessa finally spoke up, her voice devoid of its usual edge. No sarcasm, no complaints. Just a simple sentence. "Thank you for not making a scene earlier, Clara." I looked at her, calm and steady, my eyes searching hers for sincerity. I don't need to raise my voice for someone to realize what shouldn't be done. I've said enough. Mark nodded silently, a quiet confirmation of his support, his expression a mix of relief and determination. And from that moment on, no one brought up just a few minutes of help again. The following days passed peacefully, a delicate truce settling over us. I took walks alone, my sketchbook filled with quick drawings of driftwood and waves. I visited seaside cafes, sipping lattes while chatting with locals about the town's history. I even befriended a local artist, Mia, who invited me to join her outdoor painting session, where I tried my hand at watercolor for the first time. When the family had group activities, dinners, the aquarium visit, or a beach barbecue, I joined on my terms, enjoyable, never forced. I wasn't avoiding them, but I also wasn't allowing myself to be pulled back into an old role. One evening, as we gathered for a lobster bake on the beach, Vanessa pulled me aside, her expression nervous but genuine. Clara, I found a therapist online last night. I'm starting sessions next week. I didn't realize how much I was leaning on you until Mark showed me the numbers. How much time you spent with the boys compared to me. It wasn't fair. I studied her, wary but open. It's a start, Vanessa. But it's not just about time. It's about seeing me as your sister, not your servant. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I'm trying. I don't want to lose you. I didn't respond, but I gave her a small nod, a gesture of acknowledgement, not absolution. On the final day of our vacation, the whole family gathered on the beach, the sunset casting golden light over the waves. Vanessa sat next to me for the first time, not glued to her phone or chasing after the kids. You've really changed, she said softly, and I think I'm starting to learn to accept that. I smiled without saying anything, because I knew that real change doesn't come from promises. It comes from saying no firmly, even when it's misunderstood. This vacation wasn't perfect, but it was the first time I felt truly free around my family. Not because they completely changed, but because I did first, and I held my boundaries. After the trip, I returned to my design studio in Portland in my usual rhythm. Everything slipped back into routine, client meetings, sketching late into the night. But deep down, I knew something had changed for good. Not just for me, but for my family too. One weekday afternoon, while organizing drafts for a hotel project, I got a short email from Mark titled, "Update on Vanessa." I opened it, not expecting what I read in the first few lines. I took Vanessa to her first therapy session this morning. It wasn't easy, but she didn't react like she used to. She listened. Mark shared that the therapist had said something that left both him and Vanessa speechless. Being a mother doesn't mean losing your personhood, but it also doesn't give you the right to make others carry your responsibilities. According to Mark, Vanessa cried through half the session when she realized how she had used motherhood as a reason to control those around her, especially me. At the end, Mark wrote, "I'm sorry it got this far, but thank you. If you hadn't stood your ground, Vanessa might never have looked at herself." I closed the email, a mix of relief and wariness settling over me. It was progress, but I knew change was a marathon, not a sprint. About a month after coming back from vacation, I got an unexpected message on Instagram from Zoe, the woman who worked at the little bookstore on the corner where I often spent my weekends. "Hi, Clara. I don't know if it's coincidence or fate, but I read that Reddit post and I knew it was you." My heart skipped a beat. Not from shame, but because I never expected someone from my real life to connect with a story that began with frustration and ended with self-respect. Zoe had always caught my attention, not because she was flashy, but because of the way she patiently introduced each book with a gentle smile. Always kind, never superficial, like someone who could see right through people without needing many words. I replied, "I guess that post traveled further than I thought." She messaged back almost instantly. It did, because it was real and because so many people have been Clara in their own families but never found the word. We made plans to meet the following weekend at an outdoor art exhibit downtown, a vibrant display of local sculptures and paintings. Nothing formal, just two people walking side by side, talking about art, books, and the boundaries everyone should learn to set early on. I didn't tell Zoe how many sleepless nights I'd spent because of a careless comment from someone in my family, but I did share how I once learned to stay silent, and how I finally had to relearn how to speak up. She listened without judgment and said one thing I'll never forget. "You're not selfish, Clara. You're just loving yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that." As we sipped coffee under a canopy of fairy lights, Zoe shared her own story. A domineering older brother who expected her to manage their family's bookstore while he chased dreams abroad. "I had to tell him no," she said, her eyes distant but firm. "It broke us apart for a while, but now he respects me. Your post gave me the courage to keep that boundary." I smiled, a warmth spreading through me. "I never thought my words would reach someone like you." "They did," she said, her hand brushing mine briefly. "And I'm glad they brought us here." That's how my friendship with Zoe began. Slowly, no pressure, no rush, just presence, listening, and mutual respect. As for my family, things are moving in the right direction in their own way. Vanessa continues therapy, and our conversations are no longer tense. One time, she sent me photos of watercolor paintings she did in an art class, a surprising glimpse of vulnerability. Instead of controlling, I'm learning to let go, she wrote, a message that felt like a small olive branch. Mark is more involved with the kids now, taking them on weekend outings to give Vanessa time to breathe or just be herself for a bit. My parents have learned something powerful from my long silence. They don't send messages saying, "Can you help?" anymore. Instead, they say, "If you'd like to join us for dinner, we'd be happy to see you." It may seem small, but to me, it's a whole new way of breathing in a relationship that used to suffocate me. One evening, Mom invited me to a family dinner at their house, a rare event without Vanessa's usual orchestration. As we sat around the table, Dad raised his glass, his eyes soft with regret. "To Clara," he said, his voice steady, "for teaching us what family really means." I blinked, caught off guard, my fork pausing mid-air. "Dad? I didn't do anything special," I said, my voice catching. "I just wanted to be seen." "And you were right to demand it," Mom said, her hand reaching for mine. "We were blind, Clara. We let Vanessa's needs overshadow yours, and we'll spend the rest of our lives making that right." Vanessa, sitting across from me, nodded, her eyes downcast but sincere. "I'm still learning, Clara. But I don't want to be the sister who takes anymore. I want to be the one who gives back." I didn't respond, but I squeezed Mom's hand, a silent acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, we were building something new. I still keep my own room whenever I visit, a small but firm boundary that feels like a victory. I still say no when I'm tired, and I still choose peace over pleasing everyone. When fall arrived, I received a handwritten card from Vanessa, a single sentence in her familiar, rounded handwriting from high school. "Thank you for not staying silent forever." I held the card for a long time, not overwhelmed but grounded in the knowledge that this wasn't the end of the story. But at least from now on, I wouldn't be the only one listening without being heard. And that, for me, was a beautiful beginning to any kind of change. One crisp autumn afternoon, Vanessa called unexpectedly, her voice nervous but warm. "Clara, I'm hosting a small art show at the community center. Nothing big, just my watercolors and some local artists. Would you come? No kids, no obligations, just you." I hesitated, memories of her past demands flickering, but her tone felt different, stripped of expectation. "I'll be there," I said, cautious but curious. The show was small but vibrant, Vanessa's paintings glowing with unexpected depth, soft blues and greens that captured the Maine coast we'd both loved. She greeted me with a shy smile, no trace of her old commanding presence. "I painted these because of you," she said, gesturing to a seascape. "You reminded me there's more to life than control." I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged her, a rare moment of connection that felt like a bridge rebuilt. One early autumn night, Zoe leaned against my shoulder on the wooden bench in my backyard, the porch lights casting a soft glow around us. She turned and asked, "Do you think your family really gets it now?" I smiled and squeezed her hand. "They don't have to understand everything, as long as they respect it. And this time, I think they finally do." My story isn't a miracle. There's no dramatic transformation, no tearful finality where everything's fixed. But it's a real journey where I learned to stand my ground and learned how to love others by first being kind to myself. And if someone asked me what changed a deeply rooted family dynamic after all those years, I'd simply say I stopped saying yes to things that broke me, and I started living like I was worth it. Clara's journey from silent sacrifice to empowered self-recognition unveils the pain of being the overlooked, easy one in a family, yet it radiates the courage to demand respect. Her fight to reclaim her vacation and voice wasn't just about time. It was about dignity, forged through confrontation, a viral post, and a sister's reckoning. If you fought to be seen or redefined family on your terms, your story matters. Share it below or with a friend. Your voice can inspire a community where empathy turns pain into strength. What's your journey? Speak it, We're listening.